From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. In the wake of the Iran affair, when President Reagan appointed a commission to investigate the role of the National Security Council, no one was exactly sure what to expect. Now the commission appears to be about 2 weeks from issuing its final report, and one of the things it turns out to have been investigating is whether there was a cover-up of the Iran affair in the White House itself after the scandal was disclosed. We begin at the White House this evening with ABC's Sheila Cast.
As he left for a holiday weekend at Camp David, President Reagan answered one of the first questions he's taken from reporters in weeks about the Iran-Contra affair. Was there a cover-up? No. The Tower Board the president appointed to examine the role of the National Security Council is looking into the possibility of such a cover-up by the NSC staff, although a spokesman said the board is not focusing on a cover-up. Pursuing that inquiry, the board is checking a huge electronic file from the NSC's secure computer, a backup copy of documents and messages written by various NSC staff members during November.
A lot of it is significant, and some of it raises discrepancies, contradictions between a testimony that has been received earlier and these documents.
The file covers the period during which NSC staff members were briefing the president for a televised speech and subsequent press conference on the Iran arms sales. Presidential spokesman Marlin Fitzwater told reporters the White House expects the review board's report, due in 2 weeks, to be a very critical report and a very tough report, and the tougher and more critical, the better. The White House also responded to an ABC News report that big givers to the Contra cause got special meetings with the president by saying the president did not take part in illegal fundraising for weapons.
We support the Contra cause, and individuals who give humanitarian aid have our approval and blessing.
Fitzwater said he could not say what role fired NSC aide Oliver North might have played in fundraising. Parts of the Tower Board's report may be omitted when it's declassified, but a senior official promised the White House will not edit it and will make it public as soon as the president gets it. Sheila Cast, ABC News, the White House.
The National Security Council's role in trying to raise funds for the Contras is just one of the areas the Tower Commission is investigating. Last night we documented part of the role the Channell organization played in trying to raise funds. As ABC's Barry Sarafin reports tonight, there are still other questions concerning Channell and his various organizations.
From his single set of offices, Channell controls several organizations which come under different laws and regulations. Among them, the tax-exempt National Endowment for the Preservation of Liberty. It was on behalf of the endowment that Channell announced his $2 million campaign last year to generate support for aid to the Contras.
And the purpose of our program is to educate the American people and to get them to support the president's policies on Nicaragua.
Channell's words were chosen carefully because the law severely restricts lobbying activity by tax-exempt organizations such as his, so that taxpayers don't wind up subsidizing those activities. But sources say that behind the scenes, a major purpose of the campaign was to lobby Congress, with swing votes and congressional districts targeted for Channell-sponsored speakers tours and TV ads.
This is why President Reagan has been right all along about Nicaragua. This is the threat.
Pictures of Soviet helicopter gunships for some of the ads were furnished by Oliver North. In a letter to Channell, Adam Goodman, the producer of the TV campaign, later boasted it influenced votes. All of that has some members of Congress demanding an investigation of Channell's organization.
It prides itself on the fact that it influenced legislation. It certainly shouldn't have its tax-exempt status, and there may be more reason for criminal prosecution.
In a publicly declared lobby effort by another Channell organization, Maryland Democrat Michael Barnes and other members of Congress were pressured by TV ads to vote yes on Contra aid.
The communists now have 120,000 men under arms in Nicaragua, and Congressman Michael Barnes still isn't supporting the president. Better wake him up.
But former Channell fundraiser Jane McLaughlin says the real purpose was political, to discredit Barnes' campaign for the Senate.
I was told to call everyone who had been supportive of Ollie, supportive of Colonel North, because at that time he was under a great deal of investigation that was being led by Congressman Barnes. And I was told to call these people and say, we're doing these ads. We don't want Michael Barnes to be, to make it to the Senate. This is in essence a favor to Colonel North.
North himself still isn't answering questions from reporters or anyone else. Channell also has declined to be interviewed. He does, however, still face a great many questions, particularly about his pro-Contra activities from federal investigators. Barry Tsaroff, ABC News, Washington.
Later in this broadcast, another Wall Street insider turns himself in. In Honduras, a growing American presence. It leads to a growing Honduran uneasiness. And our person of the week.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by Planters Honey Roasted Nuts.
Peanuts! Get your fresh roasted peanuts!
Hurry, wait for your sister! We must have some!
Remember getting Planters nuts fresh from the roaster?
Oh, the ones with Mr. Peanut!
Just one whiff and you couldn't resist them.
Told ya.
Well, today there's a snack that's just as irresistible. Planters Honey Roasted Nuts. They're sweet enough to please and just salty enough to tease. Planters Honey Roasted Nuts. Mr. Peanut does it again.
This is my mom. And if everything I say about the four-wheel drive Isuzu Trooper 2 isn't true, may she be struck by lightning. It can carry a symphony orchestra or every book in the Library of Congress. And the nice part is the Trooper 2 starts at just $10.80. You have my mom's word on it. Mom?
See the affordable four-wheel drive Trooper 2 at your Isuzu dealer today.
In tonight's Money Matters, the insider trading scandal, which has been shaking some of the biggest investment houses on Wall Street, has spread even further today. A major figure in the affair turned up in court to admit his guilt. Here's our economics editor, Dan Kortz.
Latest to fall in the widening insider trading scandal is Martin Siegel, a former Kidder Peabody executive who pleaded guilty today to conspiracy and tax evasion. Siegel also settled an SEC civil complaint that he sold information to Ivan Boesky, the biggest figure in the scandal, letting Boesky make $33 million. Siegel also made a good deal of money.
An individual or individuals acting as agents of Boesky delivered to Siegel a briefcase containing a substantial cash payment. According to the complaint, Siegel received a total of approximately $700,000 by this means.
Federal officials told a news conference that Siegel, like Boesky, is now a major source implicating others. For example, Siegel apparently was the informant responsible for yesterday's arrest of Robert Freeman of Goldman Sachs, Richard Wigton of Kidder Peabody, and Timothy Tabor, a former Kidder executive. That case involved T. Boone Pickens' 1985 takeover bid for Unical. His attempt sent Unical's stock soaring from $35 a share to $50. But Unical's defensive tactics thwarted Pickens, and the stock plummeted to less than $30. The government alleges the four men shared advanced knowledge of Unical's plan that allowed them to make millions in illegal profits. The U.S. Attorney said the latest cases show how widespread insider trading is.
That this reveals a very extensive problem, not just limited to a few people or a few institutions.
Siegel, who agreed to pay $9 million in penalties and still faces a possible jail term, is the seventh Wall Streeter to plead guilty in the 9 months since the scandal broke. It's all too clear he won't be the last. Dan Kortz, ABC News, New York.
Still on Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrials gained more than 17 points today. The trading continued to be heavy. That left stocks just about where they were when the week started, down just 3.5 points. Prices at the wholesale level were up sharply last month, 0.6%. The biggest overall increase in more than a year. OPEC's recent decision to boost oil prices finally showed up in the marketplace. Gas and oil prices went up more than 15%, and that's a large increase. In other news today, civil rights advocates were predicting, and it may be wishful thinking, that the Ku Klux Klan could face financial ruin. That is because an all-white jury in Mobile, Alabama, yesterday handed down a $7 million judgment against the United Klans of America. It is the first time that a jury has ever found a Klan organization liable for the actions of its individual members. ABC's Mark Potter is in Mobile.
It was a devastating loss for the United Klan of America. Imperial Wizard Robert Shelton left the courthouse without comment as anti-Klan crusaders rejoiced in the strongest attack yet on Klan violence.
An assessment of this kind might hopefully put the UKA out of business. It'll certainly have a devastating effect on them.
The case stemmed from the 1981 murder of teenager Michael Donald. 2 Klansmen were convicted of slashing his throat, then hanging his body in this tree in a Mobile neighborhood. But the Donnell family felt others were involved and filed a civil suit against the United Klan. Civil rights leaders say the verdict sends a message to Klan groups nationwide.
And that message is enough is enough. We don't need that kind of violence.
Lawyers for the family say they will try to seize the United Klan headquarters building in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, to help pay the $7 million settlement.
I'm glad justice was done. Money don't mean a thing to me, and it will not bring my child back.
Now that the jury has ruled against the Klan, the lawyers for the Donnell family say they will ask the authorities to reopen the original murder case. They believe evidence uncovered during the civil trial could possibly sustain new criminal charges against at least some defendants. Mark Potter, ABC News, Mobile, Alabama.
When we come back, another day without enough food or medicine in a Palestinian refugee camp.
Here's Jerry with a new car.
What'd you pay for it? About $5,500.
Are you kidding?
Does it run on batteries?
What's it made of? Gray paper?
Does it have a motor? Does it have a motor? Can I kick the tires? Will the door come off the hinges? Hey, guess what? It's a Subaru! Oh, a Subaru!
Subaru! Only one inexpensive car is built like a Subaru. Introducing the Subaru Justy. Inexpensive and built to stay that way.
Such a smart boy. Oh.
Lipton tea you made, decaffeinated just for me.
Lipton, you made decaffeinated delicious, just for me.
Hey, Lipton, you made decaffeinated, just for me.
Great tasting Lipton decaffeinated tea. Real Lipton tea, delicious and decaffeinated, just for you.
Lipton tea you made, decaffeinated
Just for us.
Cholesterol has natural enemies. Deep-sea cold water fish contain oil with omega-3 that recent studies indicate helps control high serum cholesterol. Because your diet may not contain enough of these fish, Squibb introduces Proto-Chol, a dietary supplement of fish oil rich in omega-3, captured in a sealed gel cap. So eat a low-fat diet, exercise, and take Proto-Chol, a natural enemy of cholesterol.
In Beirut, this was supposed to be the day that food and medicine were finally allowed into a Palestinian refugee camp which has been under siege for 11 weeks by Shiite Muslim militiamen. As ABC's Jerry King reports, it didn't happen.
The Shiite leadership had agreed to the convoy today after the Palestinians had withdrawn from positions they occupied in part of southern Lebanon. Everything went well for the first 2 trucks carrying supplies for the Shiites at war with the neighboring Palestinian camp for 4 months. But the other 2 UN trucks, escorted by gunmen, ran into trouble as they approached the besieged Palestinian enclave. The shooting apparently came from positions occupied by the Shiites and Muslim remnants of the Lebanese army. The Lebanese security officials say an Iranian diplomat was killed. In a brief lull, some supplies in ambulances got into the camp before fighting restarted.
We can only try again, but we will not go without, let's say, more guarantees and better guarantees than today.
Since October, the Burj al-Barajni camp that housed 35,000 refugees has been systematically reduced to rubble. That it has been a brutal battle for survival is borne out by a British doctor on the telephone from the camp.
People have been resorting to eating cats and dogs here, and I myself have eaten dog.
From Tunisia, a plea from PLO leader Yasser Arafat.
We are human beings, and we have the right to live as human beings.
Arafat is at the center of the fighting. The Shiites want to prevent him from rebuilding the power base he lost after Israel's 1982 invasion. Jerry King, ABC News, Damascus.
In other news overseas today, the Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev has told the Soviet press to be more objective and to tell the truth about Russian history. The public, he said, should not be kept ignorant of the darker sides of the country's history. Mr. Gorbachev has apparently not yet told the KGB to stop interfering with the Western press in Moscow. For the 5th day in a row, reporters and cameramen were physically prevented from doing their jobs as they recorded the protest of Jewish dissidents who are protesting the imprisonment of a relative. Cameras were smashed, ABC's camera cables were cut again, and a CBS camera team was detained for a while. Some of the demonstrators were led away. One of them, a young woman, was beaten and later taken away by friends. When we come back, the United States in Honduras, aid that not everyone is interested in having.
We owe it to you. So we invite GM and Ford to follow Chrysler. You know, for 5 years, I've been feeling like the guy who sent invitations to a party and nobody came. Well, somebody finally showed up. GM and Ford decided the time has come to improve their warranties. Chrysler says, welcome to the party. It's good for America. Maybe that's why we haven't heard from the Japanese. Millions of Americans are only getting 2 or 3 year protection. What are they, second-class citizens? We've backed 5 million Chrysler owners with 550 protection. Our quality had to improve, and dramatically. So, the party's over. Chrysler announces the end of 550 and the beginning of 770, the best powertrain protection in the business. 7 years or 70,000 miles on the powertrain, 100,000 miles against outer body rust through on every Chrysler, Dodge, and Plymouth we build, car, truck, and minivan. Like I said, if you're looking for who builds them best, take a good look at who backs them best.
It's a question of taste. If you had your pick of 2 cereals, both with 100% nutrition, would you pick the one with just one kind of flake? Or Kellogg's Just Right with 3 different kinds of flakes, plus hearty rolled oats, plump raisins, sweet juicy dates, and crisp crunchy nuts? You're not alone. 3 out of 4 people picked Just Right over every other high vitamin cereal. There was no question of nutrition. It was simply a question of taste. Kellogg's Just Right with fruit or whole grain.
Women have no time for irregularity, yet women are constipated 3 times more often than men. That's why there's Correctol laxative. Its gentle overnight action helps you feel like yourself again. Correctol, the gentle laxative so many women prefer.
When night leg cramps strike, get help from Dr. Scholl's with Legatrin. Unlike Tylenol, aspirin, or even ibuprofen, Legatrin relaxes knotted muscles to relieve painful cramps. Legatrin says goodnight to night leg cramps.
Yesterday we had a report on the 82nd Airborne arriving in Honduras for military exercises. They've become a pretty common occurrence. The military presence is clearly a way for the Reagan administration to keep the next-door Nicaraguans on edge. But what sort of impact is the United States having on Honduras? We asked ABC's Beth Nissen to find out.
It is a country of raw beauty, a country that has crossed only halfway into modern times. The national industry is farming. The national passion is soccer. But increasingly, the national preoccupation is the growing influence and military presence of the United States.
I don't think that Honduras has control of its destiny anymore. We feel like we are an occupied country.
In the last 4 years, tens of thousands of American troops and National Guards have trained in Honduras. Today, 3,000 U.S. military personnel are stationed here.
I wasn't sure what to expect when I heard I was going to Honduras. I thought Honduras, Central America. I didn't know anything about it. I'd never been to Central America.
Honduras is, more than anything, poor. The average income is only about $600 a year, making Honduras, after Haiti, the poorest country in this hemisphere. There is also in Honduras a poverty of culture, of national identity. It is American influence that dominates that culture. For most of this century, American fruit companies dominated Honduras, making it the original banana republic. The base of the country's economy is still agriculture. Bananas and coffee are the key exports, but neither crop brings in much cash. Honduras needs foreign investment, but foreign investors have nearly deserted this country and the rest of this politically unstable region. Honduras shares borders with 3 regional trouble spots: Guatemala, El Salvador, and Nicaragua. It is also the base for the Contras, fighting to overthrow the Sandinistas in Nicaragua.
People like me, Honduran, 100%. Democrat, 100%. We really love the American people here.
Yo no sé cuán importante seamos, pero creo que sí.
I don't know how important we are, but I think that given the situation in Central America, we have gained some importance, and the United States is responding to the loyalty that Honduras has demonstrated.
Before 1983, when the U.S. officially began sending troops here, Honduras received about $4 million a year in U.S. military aid. Now that figure has jumped to more than $60 million a year. U.S. aid has greatly built up the field strength and the political strength of the Honduran military. Today, Honduras has a democratically elected government, but the military is the strongest force in the country. Some say the military has begun to threaten the country's fragile democracy.
If things continue to deteriorate, most of the people in Honduras will be afraid eventually.
But some Hondurans are already afraid, not just of war with Nicaragua, but of what U.S. protection has cost them.
That we have lost our own identity and our own will to do things. We expect the U.S. to help us in everything. And I think that idea is really hurting our people.
Honduras is a country of raw beauty, a country that has crossed only halfway into modern times. Beth Nissen, ABC News, Tegucigalpa, Honduras.
In other news today at home, just before he left for Camp David, President Reagan made a brief appearance with the Super Bowl winners, the New York Giants. The team has made a habit of dousing their coach with Gatorade when they win. Today the president tried that on them. And, president or not, they returned the favor. Yes, it was popcorn. When we come back, our person of the week.
Well, what are you doing at Dow these days, Peggy?
Well, right now I'm working in agricultural research, Grandpa. We're trying to help farmers find new ways to make every dollar work harder.
We want to keep this farm in the family a few more generations.
It's pretty tough, isn't it?
You bet. So your dad and brother are going to need all the help they can get.
And you can make a difference in what tomorrow brings.
I won't let you down.
'Cause God lets you do great things.
The tax laws are changing. The deductions on interest are changing. So maybe you should apply for a card that doesn't charge interest. The American Express card. Apply over the phone by calling 1-800-THE-CARD. Northwest presents mini prices to many places. Mini prices to many places. Many more places than any other airline.
The 87 Yugos are here, and people love them.
I think it's fun to drive.
I like the rack and pinion steering.
We wanted a dependable second car. It's easy to love America's most affordable new car, the $39.90 Yugo GB. And now there's even more value during Yugo's Pack for Action sale. You can get sport wheel covers, a right side mirror, roof rack.
Great!
And a 3-year, 50,000-mile extended service plan.
Wow!
All at terrific savings.
I'll take it.
Hurry, this offer won't last long. See your participating Yugo dealer today.
Saturday on The Health Show with Kathleen Sullivan. How other people smoking could endanger you. A substance in sharks that may inhibit cancer. And Dr. Tim Johnson on fighting osteoporosis with calcium. The Health Show, Saturday at 12:30, 11:30 Central and Pacific.
And finally, this evening, our person of the week. A couple of things have happened this week which are in very large measure the result of this individual's determination. The federal government and New York State have become a great deal tougher on smokers. And this is also the person who has so elevated the debate about AIDS and condoms in the interest of public education.
I view myself as sort of standing at the narrow part of the hourglass between the public out there and the government behind me. And my job is to warn the public about those things that are beneficial for their health and those things that they can do to prevent disease. But I have the obligation to turn around and address the government and say, hey, here's what they need, let's try to get on with it.
Yes, the beard is very distinctive. It's the same shape favored by his Dutch ancestors. It was grown as a lark, but he liked it, and he kept it. And the uniform. He looks more like an admiral than the Surgeon General. The job was created in 1871, Everett Koop is the first Surgeon General in some years to encourage the uniform in the public health service which he runs. He thinks it's good for morale.
We've got plans.
And dreams.
We're trying to make the right choices.
It really is Koop, because he wears the mantle of public health, who has energized the debate about advertising condoms on television.
Advertising, I think, is necessary in reference to condoms and would have a positive public health benefit.
The president believes that the public trusts what the Surgeon General says.
We're trying to do two things. Calm the hysteria in those people who couldn't catch AIDS if they tried, and on the other hand, awaken the sensitivity of those who practice high-risk behavior and warn them that the penalty is death.
But when he began to concentrate on AIDS, some people feared he would have a bias against homosexuals.
He will be remembered as a very special person, a person who rose above background, rose above political point of view, and did something that he thought was right simply because it was right.
Dr. Koop is certainly no stranger to controversy. After he was nominated by President Reagan, it took him almost a year to be confirmed. His opponents called him a right-wing, anti-abortion, anti-homosexual zealot. Chief among his critics was Congressman Henry Waxman.
I made a mistake. I didn't know that he would turn out to be a man of such enormous integrity, that he would express his point of view even if it were inconsistent with or offended some people that he agreed with on many issues or disagreed with under other circumstances.
Dr. Koop. Koop was not the first Surgeon General to warn the nation about smoking. That was Luther Terry in 1964. But it was Koop who gave the anti-smoking campaign life. He is positively evangelical on the subject.
With changes of smoking at the work site, with the whole government going to smoking bans and restrictions, we're on a roll right now. And I think we will achieve the smoke-free society by the year 2000 that I called for in 1984.
Even Koop's critics seem to understand his passionate commitment to children. In 1948, when he became the chief surgeon at Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, there were only 6 pediatric surgeons in the country. He established the first intensive care unit for newborns in the nation. He has treated, by his own count, 100,000 children.
I had my great years as a researcher and a clinician, and I love what I'm doing now. And the Surgeon General's job, fortunately, is not so much administration as it is communication, and I like that.
And so we choose Charles Everett Koop. The Surgeon General explains his lifelong commitment to the very young this way. When you do surgery on a 2.5-pound premature baby and you know you've given it a life expectancy of 70 years, you have an incredible high. That's our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. Have a nice weekend. Good night.
From ABC, this has been World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Hi, this is Debbie's own show, me.
Debbie Allen, Bob Hope, and special guest star Sammy Davis Jr. join Emmanuel Lewis for his very own special.
Ready when you are, big time.
Right after Webster.
Tonight.
Stauffer Seeds, America's fastest growing seed company, delivers quality hybrids like S5340 with award-winning high yields. S5340.
Guess who's fixing to take your mouths to catfish heaven?
Long John Silver's is serving up the down-home catfish meal. Coleslaw, French fries, hush puppies, the whole deal. We're gonna put a hole down in your mouth with sweet, tender catfish, all raised in the South. So when you're hungry for a genuine catfish dish, try the folks who know fish. Long John Silver's sounds good to me.
Even when the fish aren't biting, I am. And there's nothing I love nibbling on